ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे। ओम श्री हयग्रीवाय नमः। ओम श्री वल्लभा समेत श्री महागणाधिपतये नमः। We were looking at the topic Brahma Mimamsayah Karma Mimamsadhyayana Anantarya Niyama Nirakaranam. So we are negating that Karma Mimamsadhyayana has to be done first, then only one can do Brahma Mimamsa. This view we are negating, and in this context, I think we have already come a long way. So finally, it was said that Brahma Vichara Ukta Nyayehi Eva Brahmanah Vicharayitavyatvat iti. Up to this we came. Okay. So we don't require any Nyaya or principles which are used in Karma Mimamsa, although it may be sometimes useful, or we can also use those to establish certain points, but it is not a requirement. Whatever is there in the Brahma Mimamsa itself, the principles, whatever we use, that is good enough for us to understand the Tatparya of the Vedanta, and then understand the teaching there, whatever is revealed. Now, further, Ramanuja says that even Karma Mimamsa is required. Why? Because even in Upanishads, certain upasanas are given. See, for example, if you take Chandogya Upanishad, the first 5 chapters are all upasana para. That's why even in our Gurukula Vasa, we actually studied only from the 6th chapter onwards. So we did Shravanam of 6th, 7th, and 8th chapters of Chandogya with the Bhashya. So our Swamiji did not actually cover the first 5 chapters because it is all full of upasana. Of course, here and there are some statements are all there which are still, you can take it for Vedanta, but it is mainly upasana. Similarly, even in Brihadaranyaka also, there are a lot of places where upasanas are mentioned. Even it starts with the, if you see the first brahmana of the first chapter in Brihadaranyaka is Ashwamedha Upasana. And there is a prana upasana. All these things are there. And later on in the, if you take the Ajatashatru Brahmana, there are a lot of Sagno Brahma upasanas are mentioned there with their phalals. What is the result of doing such upasana? So like this, upasanas being mentioned in the Vedanta, how do you then know how to do those upasanas? For that, you should know again Karma Mimamsa, he says, because upasanas are Manasa Kriya. So this is another reason they give that why you have to first study Purva Mimamsa before you can study Uttara Mimamsa. So that point is being now taken up. So Yacha Uttam Ramanujena Brahma Mimamsa Gata Udgitadi Upasananam Karmatvena Tad Jnanartham Karma Mimamsa Brahma Mimamsayaha Purvam Adhyaya iti Tadapi Asat. So whatever was said by Ramanuja, that Brahma Mimamsa Gata Udgita, it should be Udgita. It's a spelling mistake. I think they have put it as Thakara instead of Thakara, or maybe there are both are correct. But generally it is Udgita only. That's how I have seen it in the Chandogya also. In fact, the Chandogya Upanishad starts with the Udgita Upasana. Okay, so there is a, it starts with Omityetad Aksharam Udgitham Upasita, like that. So it introduces Om and says that Om itself is Udgita. And Om itself is a pratika for Paramatma, and that's how one has to do the Upasana there. So this Udgita, the Upasanas are there, and they are all Manasam Karma, correct? Karmatvena. And how to do that karma then? Tat jnanartham. So now you have to first know about that manasa karma, and then only you can do that. Therefore, tat jnanartham karma mimamsa, karma mimamsayaha purvam adhyeya. So to know about this manasam kriya, these upasanas, you have to do karma mimamsa. Then only you can do adhyanam of brahma mimamsa. Like this, it is said by Ramanuja, tadapi asate. That is also not true. Why? Why? Because ज्योतिष्टोमेन युयुक्षुः यथा तदिति कर्तव्यता ज्ञानार्थं कर्ममीमांसाम् अपेक्षते तथा उद्गीतादि उपासनानि विभित्सुः न कर्ममीमांसाम् अपेक्षते किन्तु ब्रह्ममीमांसामेव. So why? Because like there is Jyotishtoma, correct? It is a very big Vaidika karma. So Swarga Kamaha Jyotistomene Yajeta, like this. The vidhi is there. Whoever is desirous of going to Swarga should do Jyotishtoma. So Yiyakshuhu means Yashtum Ichuhu, one who desires to uh, do this yajna, correct? Called Yiyakshuhu. Jyotistomena Yiyakshuhu. So the one who wants to do yajna or desires to do yajna in the form of Jyotishtoma, now he has to know how to do it, correct? What are all the steps involved, etc. So tad iti kartavyata jnanartham. So iti kartavyata means how to do it. The standard operating procedures, you can say, correct? So how to do the Jyotishtoma, all the steps to know that karma mimamsam apekshate. So you depend on karma mimamsa. You depend on the purva mimamsa only. But tatha, similarly, shithadi upasanani viditsuhu, viditsu, okay, viditsu, I think it is. So the one who wants to do this or know about this Udgita need not study any karma mimamsa, he says. Karma mimamsam na apekshate. That's what we have to understand. So he has put a na here. Na karma mimamsam apekshate. So we don't depend on karma mimamsa for understanding how to do this upasana. Kintu brahma mimamsam eva. With the study of brahma mimamsa only, we should be able to know how to do this upasana. Okay. And why? Because tasyam eva tesham vicharitatva. Another thing is, all these upasanas are not even inquired in the Purva Mimamsa actually. So these upasanas, which are part of the Upanishads, are only analyzed in the Brahma Sutra itself because there is a sadhana chapter is there, correct? So in that the upasanas are all analyzed. Therefore, they are only analyzed in the Brahma Mimamsa. So then why should we even study the Purva Mimamsa for that? Okay. So it is not even inquired into or analyzed there. It is analyzed here only. Therefore, there is no requirement. Further, what nacha karma mimamsam vina karma swarupasya duradigamatvat udgita upasanadinam cha karmatvat tat swarupa jnanartham karma mimamsa adhyeya iti vachyam. Okay. So without knowing karma mimamsa, one cannot know the swarupa of the karma. Like this, the Purva Pakshi is saying, it's not easy to know. Duradigamatvat. So to know that, it's not easy. Therefore, what? Udgita upasanadinam cha karmatvat. And Udgita upasana, etc. karma. Is all manasam karma only. Therefore, to know their swarupa, that swarupa jnanartham karma mimamsa adhyeya. So karma mimamsa has to be studied. Like this, you should not say. Why? Because Trishya dehe api karmatvat tat swarupa jnanasya cha karma mimamsam vina duradigamatvat tadarthamapi karma mimamsa adhyaya iti vaktavyatva apatte. Then you have to say, even for doing agriculture, let us say, Krishyadi, Laukika karma, basically. Any Laukika karma also is a karma. Then you can also say equally that to that Swarupa, to know the Swarupa of this like Laukika karma, you have to do karma mimamsa. Because otherwise it is not easy to know the Swarupa of the Laukika karma also. Like this you may have to say, which is not true. Correct? Nobody is studying Purva Mimamsa to do agriculture. Therefore, whatever you say, there is no requirement like that. There is Ativyapti is happening. You say like that. But then they can come back and say, no, no, we did not mean Laukika Karma. We are only talking about Vaidika Karma. Correct? So that also is taking up now. Nacha Laukika Karma Swarupam. Sorry, Nacha Alaukika Karma Swarupam Karma Mimamsaika Adigamyam Iti Vachyam. Okay, so now he is coming back and saying, whatever you are saying, Krishi, etc., are Laukika, but we are talking about Alaukika Karma, means Vaidika Karma. So Alaukika Karma Swarupam only can be known through Karma Mimamsa. We are not talking about Laukika Karma. We are talking about Alaukika Karma, and its Swarupa can be only known by doing Karma Mimamsa. Like this also you cannot say, because even in the Alaukika Karma, only the Karma Kandokta Karma requires Karma Mimamsa. So that's what we are saying. So he is saying, you cannot say that. Why? Karma Kanda Pratipadita Karma Swarupam Eva Karma Mimamsaika Adhigamyam Jnana Kanda Pratipadita Karma Swarupam tu Brahma Mimamsa Eka Adhigamyam Eva. So what we are saying is, whatever is revealed in the Karma Kanda of the Shruti, that alone, to know how to do that, what is the Swarupa of that karma, you have to do Karma Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. Otherwise, whatever has been said in the Jnana Kanda, like we said already, it is not even inquired upon in the Purva Mimamsa. It has been inquired upon only in the Sadhana chapter of the Brahma Sutra. Therefore, whatever has been revealed in the Jnana Kanda, to understand that Manasa Karma Swarupa, Brahma Mimamsa alone is good enough. In fact, we don't say that to do Karma Mimamsa, you have to study Brahma Mimamsa, correct? Whatever the Karma Swarupa which is said in the Purva Kanda, you know that by studying Purva Mimamsa itself. Similarly, whatever Karma Swarupa which we have to know with reference to the Upanishads, these karma, manasam karma are important because upasanas are also important for us for chitta naishchalyam, we say. So there is a chitta shuddhi, chitta naishchalyam, both are important for a Vedantin. Therefore, we have to do upasana, but all that you don't have to study karma mimamsa for that. Brahma mimamsa alone is good enough for us. Therefore, what atayeva udgithadi upasida udgita upasanadinam karma mimamsayam avicharitatvam. So, therefore, what we say that for udgita upasanas or udgita adi upasanadinam is there, etc. There are so many other upasanas, like I said, adi padat. All these upasanas for that karma mimamsa need not be inquired into or analyzed. You don't have to do karma mimamsa or adhyanam of karma mimamsa. Further, what tasmat brahma mimamsayaha karma mimamsa adhyayana anantaryam na vaktavyam. Therefore, you cannot say that to do brahma mimamsa, one has to do karma mimamsa first. It cannot be said. But what is the important thing? Kintu sadhana chatushtaya sampatti anantaryam eva. So the atha shabdartha only, still we are doing vichara. So it is sadhana chatushtaya sampatti anantarya only. So you have to do brahma mimamsa after gaining sadhana chatushtaya. Viveka Vairagya, Mukshutvam, and Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. These are the important things. These are the prerequisites for Brahma Mimamsa, not the Karma Mimamsa. Okay. Now, but he is now uh, making a nuanced argument, let us say. Okay. So up to this, we have said this. But then there may be a question. Then what? All this Purva Mimamsa is completely waste or what? Does any Vedantin really study it? Or is it there? Why it is there also as a Shastra, correct? So, and we are all Vedikas. So, how do we then look at Purva Mimamsa? So, he says, Na yetavan matrena asmabihi karma mimamsa naiva adhyaya iti uchyate. So by saying all this, whatever we have said till now, correct? We don't say that karma mimamsa should never be done. or you don't have to do adhyayana of Purva Mimamsa. That we are not saying that. So how do we then integrate everything? Means we say chitta shuddhyartham vihita karmanaha kartavyatvat taditi kartavyata jnanartham karma mimamsayaha dhyetavyatvat cha. So for chitta shuddhi, for the purpose of gaining chitta shuddhi, one has to do Vaidika karma. Of course, we have to do that Vaidika karma, not looking for karma phala, but with yoga buddhi. But even then, you should know how to do, correct? Even Sandhya Vandanadi, no, most people don't know how to do today. Forget more detailed Vaidika karma. Sandhya Vandana only I am teaching many people now. Many of my friends and all, those who never did any Sandhya Vandanam in their lives, they come and at least want to learn that and do. Now, even doing Sandhya Vandanadi karma with yoga buddhi is a big thing. Because any Vaidika karma is important for doing karma with yoga buddhi, because Vaidika karma like Sandhya Vandana or even some other yajna you do, you don't see the phala immediately, correct? The drishta phalam is only, if you do a yajna, only crying is the drishta phala. You are sitting in the smoke and crying. All the ayasa, whatever effort you have taken, whatever money you have spent, that is the drishta phala. But if you still do that, because it is to be done, let us say like Sandhya Vandanam or Samhita Danam or some other karma, and you are doing it not for adrishta phala also. So the drishta phala also is not anything which you desire really. You don't want to cry in smoke, otherwise, correct? And adrishta phala also you are not interested in. Then it is really you are doing it with yoga buddhi, because it has to be done for that purpose alone you are doing. That means you will gain certain mastery over your likes and dislikes. Whatever you are doing, because it has to be done in spite of your likes and dislikes. Once you gain that ability to do whatever is to be done in spite of your likes and dislikes, means you have gained chitta shuddhi, you are the master of your own likes and dislikes. Because for us, raga dvesha is the mala, raga dvesha is the shuddhi, and therefore chitta shuddhi means being free from raga dvesha, being not in their spell, correct? Raga dvesha vashat, you have come out. You have come out of the spell of your own likes and dislikes, means you have chitta shuddhi. For that, you have to do karma. And for that, you have to do vihita karma. Once you are looking upon Veda as a Vaidika, you are looking upon the Veda as a pramana, and Veda Purvakanda also we give some pramanatvam, correct? And therefore, whatever is vihitam there, whatever is mandated, nitya naimitika karma, you do, but you do with yoga buddhi. But even to do that, you should know how to do it. Therefore, for that, you can study Purva Mimamsa. We don't say that you should not study Purva Mimamsa. But then what do we say? Parantu, that we are adding. But there is a but here. Parantu, Brahma Mimamsa Adhyanartham Karma Mimamsa na Adhyaya iti uchyate. But we say that it is not for the purpose of doing Brahma Mimamsa that you have to study Karma Mimamsa. It is only to do the karma, niyata karma, the vihita karma which is there. To do that, you should do the Adhyayana of Purva Mimamsa, fine. From there again, one has to do all that karma with yoga buddhi and gain chitta shuddhi. For that purpose, it is okay. But if you already have chitta shuddhi, correct? Because even purva janma samskarena, one can have chitta shuddhi already. Means then why should you do all that? You don't have to do really. That is the point here. So we cannot say that Brahma Mimamsa requires Karma Mimamsa. That is not correct. That we are not able to accept. But we still say that you can do Purva Mimamsa Adhyayana for the purpose of knowing how to do Vihita Karma. Therefore, what Yetena Brahma Vicharasya Karma Vicharokta Nyaya Sapekshatve Abhyugagatepi Na Asmakam Kapi Kshatihi. So, in this manner, even let us say that even to do the Brahma Vichara, some Nyayas, whatever principles which are used in the Purva Mimamsa, for that we can depend on that also. It's not a problem for us. We may use them to do Brahma Vichara. So Karma Vichara Ukta Nyaya Sapekshatva means what? Having some dependency on whatever principles which are being taught in the Karma Mimamsa. While doing Karma Vichara, whatever principles you use, You can use that during Brahma Vichara also. We can accept that. Vibhagatepi, na asmakam kapi kshati. Even if we accept that, there is nothing wrong for us. We are not really worried about it. We are only saying that making it as a mandatory prerequisite is our problem. Is that clear? So otherwise we have no problem. Kapi kshatihi na asmakam. For us there is no problem. Therefore what? Parantu janmantara anushtita karma vashadeva yeshamiha janmani chitta shuddhihi आसीत् तेषां कर्ममीमांसाध्ययनेन न किमपि फलमिति कृत्वा अन्वयव्यतिरेकज्ञायात् नियतपूर्ववृत्तित्वात् साधनचतुष्टय सम्पत्त्यानन्तर्यम् एव अथ शब्दस्य अर्थः इति उच्यते. Okay, now finally he has summarized the entire position. So what we are saying, is there can be chitta shuddhi already because of janmantara anushtita karma. So in Purva Janma only you have done a lot of karma with yoga buddhi, but due to some reason you became a yoga prashta, you didn't gain this knowledge, then again you are born. But Bhagavan says, correct, tatratam buddhi sanyogam labate paurvadehikam, correct? Athava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. All these things Bhagavan is saying. So you may take birth in the family of yogis, karma yogis, and again you may also have whatever pura samskaras may be available to you now. So buddhi sanyogam, correct? Paurvadehikam buddhi sanyogam labate atrapi. So even in this janma, you gain access to whatever was available in the previous janma buddhi. Means that samskaras are available to you now. Therefore, you start as a child prodigy and all that. Like that. So you have a certain viveka already. You don't have to go through all the experiences in this life to learn certain things because you already have a certain, let us say, inclination towards this Brahma Vichara. You already have certain dispassion towards Karma Phala. Those things you are able to see very clearly from a young age, let us say. So for such a person who has this clarity because of whatever you have done in the Purva Janma, so Yesham Iha Janmani, Chitta Shuddhi Asi, they already have Chitta Shuddhi. Therefore, for them, Tesham Karma Mimamsa Adhyanena Na Kimapi Phalam, for them doing Karma Mimamsa, you are not going to get anything. Okay. Therefore, iti kritva. So, considering like that, what do we say? Anvaya vyatireka jnaya. Further, we say what? Anvaya vyatireka. If this is there, this has to be there. If that is not there, this will not be there. Like that, we do the anvaya vyatireka. Correct? So, if smoke is there, fire has to be there. If fire is not there, smoke will not be there. This is the anvaya vyatireka we talk about. Correct? The invariable concomitance is proved by Anvaya and Vyatireka. And that Anvaya Vyatireka Nyaya, we can only, by that we can only say that Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti alone is like that. Because to do Brahma Vichara, one has to have Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. And if Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is not there, one cannot do Brahma Vichara. So by Anvaya Vyatireka, the Niyata Purva Vrittitvam means what? Mandatorily, whatever has to be there before. That is called Niyata Purva Vrittitva. So, for doing Brahma Vichara, mandatorily one has to have the sadhana sushtaya as already. Okay, that is the prerequisite, mandatory prerequisite. And that alone, then we will say, so sadhana sushtaya sampatti anantaryameva atha arthaha. So, the atha shabda in the athato Brahma Jijnasa means that sadhana sushtaya sampatti anantaryam. After gaining the sadhana sushtaya sampatti, only one has to enter into Brahma Vichara. That's what is said by the Atha Shabda, and this is our Siddhanta. Okay. No, even after saying all these things, what our Purva Bhukshi comes back. He says, Nacha Chitta Shuddhav Satyam api katham karma mimamsa nyaya anapekshatvam uttara mimamsaya iti vachyam. So Purva Bhukshi is saying, how can you say, let us say, we also accept that Purva Janma Samskaras are all accepted by everybody. And Bhagavan also says that in Gita. So they cannot have any objection to that. So Chitta Shuddhi is there. Due to Purva Janma Samskara, we accept. But even then, how can you say that there is no dependency on the Nyaya which are said in the Karma Mimamsa for doing Brahma Mimamsa? Means you cannot say that. You require still the study of Karma Mimamsa. Like this, the Purva Pakshi, if he says, he cannot say that. Why? Uttara Mimamsa Nyayehi eva Uttara Mimamsa Vicharaha Sukaraha. So Uttara Mimamsa Vichara we can do very well. Sukaraha. Okay. By whatever is there in the Uttara Mimamsa itself, whatever principles enumerated in the Uttara Mimamsa, we don't require any Purva Mimamsa, etc. That's what we have been saying always. Therefore, Yatha. In fact, the example what we give is what Yatha Purva Mimamsa Nyayehi eva Purva Mimamsa Vicharaha iti. So, by how do you do Purva Mimamsa Vichara? With the Nyayas which are said in the Purva Mimamsa itself, correct? Like that, to do Uttara Mimamsa Vichara, the Nyayas or the principles which are enumerated in the Uttara Mimamsa itself is good enough for us. We don't need anything else. They are all only nice to have kind of a thing. There is no mandatory requirement or prerequisite. Therefore, what do we say? Even if after we say this, then he is saying, see, you accepted that we can depend on Purva Mimamsa Nyaya. Correct? So he is saying, Nacha evam kasmat Purva Mimamsa Nyaya Sapekshatvam Uttara Mimamsayaha Abhyupagatam iti vachyam. So we only few sentences back we accepted here, correct? Karma Mimamsa Karma Vicharokta Nyaya Sapekshatve Abhyupagatepi na asmakam kapi kshatihi, like this he said. So he is now bringing notice of that. So how did you then say that? That you can use the karma mimamsa ukta jnaya. You have accepted them and you say that we can use it. How can you say that? Don't ask me why. Because what we really meant by that is what? Purva mimamsa nyayehi api. See the api. We can use the Purva mimamsa nyaya also to understand Uttara mimamsa. Correct? So Purva mimamsa nyayehi api Uttara mimamsa arthaha विचारयितुं शक्यते इति अभिप्रायः. So our opinion is that you can use Purva Mimamsa Nyayas also while analyzing the Vedanta Vakyas when you are studying Uttara Mimamsa, but there is no requirement. In fact, finally is now summarizing the entire argument. What is that? Ayam Bhavaha. So this is what is meant finally. What? Uttara Mimamsa Upadeshtaraha Guravaha. So those gurus who are teaching Uttara Mimamsa. Okay, Yedi Tarkika Chakravartinaha. So if they are very well versed in Tarka, particularly Navya Nyaya and all that. Some gurus are like that. And even to study granthas like Advaita Siddhi, you should have some background in all these things. Correct? Even my own Guruji never advised us to study Advaita Siddhi, etc. He never taught us Navya Nyaya at least. Some Tarka Sangraha and all that we know. Prachina Nyaya, because even in the Bhashya, also Nayayaka is a Purva Pakshi in some places, so we should understand their darshana. So that much knowledge we had, but we didn't study Advaita Siddhi, etc., or it is not required of. For moksha, etc., Advaita Siddhi is not required. I will also say that. But it is not, that doesn't mean that you should not study or you should not have an interest in that. Some people have interest in all that. Okay, or if you don't have anything else to do, at least you can study Advaita Siddhi. I am not against it or anything, but there is no requirement. The only Siddhi Grantha we studied in our Gurukula Vasa is Naishkarmya Siddhi, actually. And there again, it is all, Sureshwara is not using any language, Nyaya language and all that. But still, what we have to understand is, whoever is strong in Tarka may teach you all the texts which are very Tarka oriented. Vedanta itself can be studied through the jargon of Tarka, I would say. Okay, Tarkika Chakravartinaha. So if you are a Tarkika Chakravarti, you are a king in Tarka, then Tarhi Tarka Shastrokta Nyayehi Eva Shishyasya Mimamsarkam Bodhayanti. So a lot of Anumana, complex Anumana, sophisticated Anumana you can use to understand Vedanta. or you don't even require all that. Okay. Or yaditu Mimamsaka Chakravartinaha, or otherwise if your guru is a Mimamsa Chakravarti, king in Mimamsa, he is a Mimamsaka, then Karma Mimamso Prajnayehi, so then he will use Purva Mimamsa a lot. Or like my own Guruji, he was neither a Tarkika Chakravarti nor Mimamsaka Chakravarti like that, but he is a modern Chakravarti, I would say. So he taught in English actually. So that is fine. It's not that we didn't understand Vedanta because he taught us like that. So yedito kevala Vedantinaha. So there are people who teach Vedanta only as Vedanta. In fact, to start with, that is the best, I think. So kevala Vedantinaha tarihi Uttaramimamsa Nyayehi eva iti. So you can use only the Uttaramimamsa Nyayas to understand the Vedanta. You don't require that kind of a language or those principles. We can very well understand the subject matter, even if it is taught with whatever is there in the Vedanta and in the Brahma Sutras. So that is it. That itself is good enough. Anybody with a certain linguistic and analytical skills can be taught. So that's why my Guruji said that even if you have some, at least high school education, you should have, correct? So high school you have studied, or if you are a graduate and all that, even in modern education, you are supposed to have certain linguistic skills and analytical skills. That is good enough. Then rest of the things can be taught to anybody. So that is how we say this. So there is no requirement that you have to study Karma Mimamsa or you have to study Tarka. All these things, we don't say that. Therefore, what? Nacha Kevala Vedanti Vedantitvam Asiddham iti Vachyam. Okay. Okay, now the Purva Bakshi is saying there is nothing called Kevala Vedanta. That even my Swamiji, Dayananda Swamiji used to say that traditionally, if you say I am studying Vedanta without studying Nyaya and Vyakarana, they don't accept it. They will say it is Anyaya Vedanta. He used to say that. You cannot study Anyaya Vedanta because Nyaya and Vyakarana are supposed to be common for all other Shastra Adhyayana. So if you go to traditional places like this, Tenali exams are all there. So they, in fact, even for the Vedanta exams, you start with Tarka Sangraha. Okay. So without Nyaya, they start with Nyaya only. Because in traditional studies, Nyaya only supplies you all the jargon, correct? But for us, the starting point is modern education. And if you have modern education also, like I said, you have certain linguistic and analytical skills. That is good enough actually. That fills up whatever Nyaya normally fills in the case of traditional study. So even though it is Anyaya Vedanta, it is still Vedanta. It is Kevala Vedantinaha, we are all, we can say that. So Kevala Vedantitvam Asiddham, it is not possible, you cannot say. He is saying, why? Vina Tarka Adhyanam, Vina Mimamsa Adhyanam cha, Krita Brahma Vicharanam, Aparokshi Krita Brahmatmanam cha, Bahunam Idanim, Palambhat iti Sankshepaha. So finally, what do we say briefly? That without doing any Tarka Adhyayana, without doing any Adhyayana of Purva Mimamsa, lot of people have done Brahma Vichara, Krita Brahma Vicharanam. And again, what? For them, what? Aparokshi Krita Brahma Atmanam. And they are also the ones who have directly known that Atma is Brahman, that Aham Brahmasmi iti Manye Viditam. Like the Kenopanishad student said, those who understood this, those who say that I know Aham Brahmasmi iti, such people are there. Bahunam, in fact. Lot of people are there like Idanim, Palambhat. So even now, they are available. People like that are there. Therefore, you cannot say that Kevala Vedantitvam Asiddham. That cannot be said by you. Kevala Vedantis are there. And Vedanta can be taught with Vedanta only. And Brahma Mimamsa only. We don't require other Shastras. Although other Shastras may be helpful, particularly for some Purva Paksha Siddhanta, etc. Otherwise, we don't require them. So with this topic is over. The next topic is what? Nirvishesha-Atma-nirUpaNam. So Ramanuja, etc., do not accept that there is a nirvishesha Atma. In fact, this is the topic with which I talked in that Indica. They held a one day like a seminar, correct, or a webinar on Vellangunda Ramaraya Kavi. They asked me to talk on particularly Shankara-Ashankara-Bhashya-Vimarshah because not many people were talking on this text. Many others were talking about his Bhagavad Gita Tika, which is much more popular actually, and some other texts. And in this, I chose this topic mainly because the story about Vellangunda Ramaraya Kavi is what? That he went to his one of his sishyas, I think. Okay, that's the interesting thing. Who was studying Panchadashi, first chapter, and there is one particular verse, I think, verse 50 or something, 49, 50, where Vidya is talking about this Savishesha and Nirvishesha and all that. Okay. And he's read that casually, and then suddenly it struck him that this makes sense. And that's how he became an Advaiti. Then he did all the Adhyayana, okay, Panchadashi, etc. He studied Advaita, and then became an Advaitin and wrote all these, whatever, so many texts. In his 39 years or something only, he also lived. Very young age, he died. So, in fact, that Panchadashi verse also is there here. If you see here, this is the Puru Pakshi is saying, Savikalpasya lakshyatve lakshyasya syad avastuta nirvikalpasya lakshyatvam na drishtam na cha sambhavi. Like this. See, you are interpreting this Tattvamasi, etc., like with Bhagatyaga Lakshana, and that Lakshana means it has to indicate something, correct? And what it is indicating, the Lakshya, it cannot be Savikalpa according to you because according to Advaita Siddhanta, anything Savikalpa is Mithya. So it is Avastu. So the Purva Pakshi is saying, if you are saying that this is Savikalpa, the Lakshya, whatever is being revealed or indicated, then that whatever is indicated will become avastu according to your own siddhanta. But if you say it is nirvikalpa, nirvikalpasya lakshyatvam is there, let us say. So the tattvamasi ityadi vakya are only revealing to us or indicating to us a nirvikalpa vastu which is satyam jnanam anantam brahma. But nothing like that can ever be known. He is saying there is nothing called nirvikalpa. Na drishtam, na cha sambhavi. It is not known and it is impossible, he is saying. It is not possible. Why? Because lakshyatvam itself is a visheshana, they will say. Understand what I am saying? That you are that you are able to indicate something itself becomes a visheshana for that. Therefore, it becomes avikalpa. So this is the argument. This is the Purvapakshi. Then for that we ask the other way around. Okay, this is the 50th one is the entire thing. In fact, later on you will see here whatever we are seeing, lot more is there. This entire thing uh, that we first establish that nirvishesha Atma is there, and then we also negate that whatever Ramanuja says about Savishesha, that we actually negate. These two are all based on this verse, this 50th verse only. What is this verse? Vikalpo nirvikalpasya savikalpasya va bhavet. So now we ask a counter question. Okay, you say that there is savikalpa vastu. That vikalpa in the savikalpa is sitting in a nirvikalpa vastu or a savikalpa vastu. When you say savisheshana, the visheshana is there in a savishesha vastu or a nirvishesha vastu. Simple question. Now they don't accept nirvikalpa itself, and even if they say nirvikalpa vastu is having savikalpa or visheshana or vikalpa, then it becomes contradictory, correct? It will become vyaghata, we say. So you cannot say that nirvikalpa vastu is having a vikalpa. That is contradictory. Nor you can say savikalpa vastu is having vikalpa. Why? If you say savikalpa vastu is having vikalpa, then you have other problems are coming. What are those problems? We'll see here. So in fact, he says, Adye Vyahatihi means first paksha is what? Nirvikalpa vastu is having vikalpa. That is Vyahati. That is contradictory. So we give it up. The first. In the second what? Anyatra. So in the other one, Anavastha Atma Ashrayadayaha Doshaha will be there. So Anavastha, how is Anavastha? Because if you say the Vikalpa or Visheshana is already there in a Savikalpa or a Savishesha Vastu, then how did it become Savishesha? You are saying some Vishesha is already there in a Savishesha Vastu. Means then again, that Savishesha Vastu, how did it become Savishesha? If you keep on asking like that, another Savishesha means it is infinite regress. Anavastha will come. Or you say, no, that next Vastu is Savishesha because of itself. Okay, Atma Ashraya dosha also is possible. The Vishesha, it is Savishesha because it is Savishesha. Something like that if you say by itself, means there is Atma Ashraya dosha. Or there can be Anyonya Ashraya dosha also. Adipada, there are other doshas. Means you say the second one is dependent on the first for the first one makes the second one Savishesha, second one makes the first one Savishesha. Like this, if you say, then also there is a problem. It is mutual dependence. Anyonya Ashraya. Or you bring a third one. So you say first one depends on the second, second depends on the third, but third depends on first means it is called Chakraka. There is a circularity is there. Like this, whichever way you explain, you cannot get out of these defects. These logical issues will always be there. In fact, he says, Idam guna kriya jati dravya sambandha vastushu samam tena swarupasya sarvam etad iti ishyatam. So this, whatever we talked about vikalpa, but the same thing is possible with guna, kriya, jati, etc. So what is the sambandha between guna and a saguna vastu, or a kriya and a sakriya vastu, jati and a sajatiya vastu? Like this, if you keep on asking whether the jati is there in a sajatiya vastu or a vijatiya vastu or a ajatiya vastu, whatever, or guna is there in saguna or a nirguna vastu. Like this, you can do the same kind of analysis. The same problems will be there for you. Therefore, what do we do? How do we understand this? Means that finally our Siddhanta is what? Vikalpa tad abhavabhyam asamsprishta atma vastuni. So whatever, whether you say there is Vikalpa, there is no Vikalpa, etc. The Atma Vastu is not having any sambandha with all of that. It is Asanga. Okay, it is asamsprishtaha. It is not touched by all these arguments, whatever you make. In fact, vikalpitatva, lakshyatva, sambandhadi, astu kalpitaha. So whatever we say, even this vikalpa is there because it's a adhyaropa actually. Or even we say that Atma is indicated, but being indicated also is within mithya only. It's not some satyatvam for us. Because his entire vyavahara, Guru Sishya vyavahara, Baddha Moksha vyavahara also is mithya. Therefore, it is all only kalpita. Finally, we have to say the Vikalpa or Visheshana is there only in Nirvikalpa or Nirvishesha, but the Sambandha is Adhyasika Sambandha. It is only superimposition. Therefore, there is no contradiction or anything for us. It is all Kalpita. So this is the portion which Vellankonda Ramaraya Kavi studied. Then he became an Advaitin is what the story is. Okay. So this is a very important part for him. So he says nirvishesha-Atma-nirUpaNam. So he tries to do the nirvishesha-Atma-nirupana here first. Nirvishesham vastu kinchid asti utana iti ayam amshaha iha vicharyate. So we do the vichara whether there is something called nirvishesha vastu or not. And now what are the kotis or what are the opinions? Nirvishesham vastu nasti eva. There is no nirvishesha vastu. There is nothing called nirvishesha. Why? Sarvasyapi vastunaha savisheshatvat. All vastus, all the entities, all substances are always having some visheshana, some qualities. There is nothing called a nirvishesha or an entity without any qualities or dharma. Okay, sarvasyapi vastunaha savisheshatva, everything is savishesham. Brahmanascha nityatvadi visheshatvena, and also Brahman also has visheshanas like nitya, satyam, nitya, all these words, whatever we say, these are all qualities of Brahman. So Brahman is also savishesham. So nityatwadi visheshavatvena nirvisheshatva bhavat iti Ramanuja. So Ramanuja says even Brahman has ananta kalyana guna for them, correct? So it has all the gunas, kalyana gunas. Therefore, Brahman is not nirvishesha, can never be nirvishesha. There is nothing called nirvishesha. So the nirvisheshatva abhava is there in general and particularly in Brahman. Therefore, savishesha alone is the truth. This Ramanuja is saying. Tad asat, that we cannot accept. That's not true. Why? Kim nirvishesha vastunaha satve nirvishesham vastu nasti iti nishidhyate. So if you say that nirvishesha vastu is not there, why are you even negating it if it is not there? So you are saying nirvishesha vastu being there, you are negating it, or it is not even there and still you are negating it. This is a very interesting argument. So he says, na adhyaha Satve Nisheda Yoga. If it is really there, you cannot do any Nisheda. Correct. So you cannot do any Nisheda if it is really there. But if it is not there, also you don't have to do any Nisheda. Correct. Then why are you even talking about it? Na Antyaha Asatve Sasha Shringadivat Nisheda Yoga. If it is not there, also like Tucha, like Sasha Shringar, Vandhyaputra, etc. So one need not do any Nisheda. One cannot do any Nisheda. On what basis you are negating? To negate also, something has to be there. So he is just, this is more like a Vitanda, I think, but he is saying this. Then what? Nacha na asmabhihi nirvishesham vastu nasti iti uchyate. Kintu brahmanaha nirvisheshatvam nasti iti uchyate iti vachyam. So then they are saying, no, we are not saying that there is no nirvishesha vastu, but Brahman is not nirvishesha. Okay. The nirvisheshatvam is not there in Brahman. That's what we are saying. Like this also you cannot say, he says. Why? Tathapi kim brahmanaha nirvisheshatvasya satve tvaya tan nishedaha kriyate uta satve. Even here, if you are saying Brahman does not have nirvisheshatvam, are you negating it because Brahman has nirvisheshatvam or Brahman does not have nirvisheshatvam? Okay, nirvisheshatvam being there, are you negating, or being not there, you are negating? Same question again we ask. Ubhayathapi nisheda ayoga eva iti. So even in both cases again, negation is not possible. See why he is driving this, understand. See, for any negation, there has to be a context in which you are negating, correct? And what is that context? Pranti jnanam. Understand that. So our Vellangonda is very, very intelligent. So he is trying to make them say that there can still be Bhranti that Brahman is Nirvishesha. Then there is a context to negate. Is that clear? Otherwise, there is no context to even negate. If it is really there, nobody can negate it. If it is like Shashashringa also, nobody can or nobody need to negate it, or nobody can negate it. So that's why now the beautifully he has brought out, slowly he is nudging them. So he is saying, Nacha Bhranti Siddham Brahmanaha Nirvisheshatvam Maya Nishidhyate. So now they have to say, no, there is a Bhranti. People erroneously think that Brahman is Nirvishesha. There is erroneous knowledge. Therefore, that alone we are negating. And even he is now giving yatha, like you people say, what Yushma bihi Pranti Siddhasya Dvaitasya Nishedaha Tadvat iti Vachyam. So now you Tadvat iti Vachyam. So you cannot say this na Vachyam, you have to connect here also. Basically, he is saying Pranti Siddham Brahmana Nirvishesasham Maya Nishidhyate Yatha Yushma bihi Pranti Siddhasya Dvaitasya Nishedaha Tadvat iti. So you people are saying that Dvaita is Bhranti Siddha and you are negating it. Similarly, we are saying brahmanah nirvisheshatvam is Bhranti Siddha and we are negating it. Even that you cannot say, he is saying. Why? Dvaitasya Sattvam Bhranti Siddham iti Vedantehi Jnayate. Why? Because Dvaita is Bhranti. Like that, Vedantas are very clearly saying everywhere Dvaita means Yatra Dvaitam Iva Pashyati. Neha Nanasti Kinchana. Correct? Yaiha Nana Iva Pashyati. All these things. So Dvaita is Khandita in the Vedanta. Advaitam, wherever Advaitam is there, there is no Iva or anything. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Ekameva Advitiyam. All these things, there is no Ivakara or anything. Advaita is always presented as Satya. And Dvaitam is negated. It is talked about as resulting in all kinds of problems. Correct? Dvitiyadvai Bhayam Bhavati. Okay, are you the one who says sees multiplicity goes from death to death? All these things are there in the Upanishad. So Dvaitasya Sattvam Bhranti Siddham iti Vedantehi Jnayate. Brahmanah nirvisheshatvam Bhranti Siddham iti Katham Tvaya Jnayate. So how do you now say that Brahman nirvishesha, that Brahman is nirvishesha is Bhranti? That first you have to establish. So now he has beautifully shifted the argument. So first they have to prove that brahmanah nirvisheshatvam itself is Bhranti, it is erroneous. How do you know establish that? How do you know that? So only if you know that you can say that, correct? Yena tatha uchyate iti. So only if you first establish that brahmanah nirvisheshatvam is Bhranti siddha, then you can say, okay, we are negating, but you cannot prove that. So further what nacha savisheshe brahmani nirvisheshatva sthiti vyaghat एव अस्माभिः ब्रह्मणः निर्विशेषत्वं भ्रान्तिसिद्धमिति उच्यते इति. Okay, next is what? Why are we saying that brahmana nirvisheshatvam bhranti? Because they are saying now, see, that Brahman, if you say is nirvishesha, then what about all the visheshanas? Sagunam Brahma also is talked about. Savishesha Brahman is there. Then how these visheshas cannot be there in a nirvishesha vastu, correct? Already we said there is vyagata, contradiction will be there. So Savishesha Brahmani Nirvisheshatva Sthiti, or the other way around, they are saying Vedanta is only revealing Savishesha Brahman. And once you accept that, then any Nirvisheshatvam will be only Vyagata. Other way around also. Whichever way you look at it. Okay. There is contradiction. So Nirvisheshatva Sthiti Vyagata Eva Asmabihi Brahmana Nirvisheshatvam Bhranti Siddham iti uchyate. Therefore we say that Brahman having Nirvisheshatvam is Bhranti because Savishesham Brahma cannot have Nirvisheshatvam, it is contradictory. Even this way you cannot say. Na Vachyam. Why? Iti na Vachyam. Why? Savisheshe Brahmani Nirvisheshatva Sthitehe Vyahatatvepi Nirvisheshe Brahmani Nirvisheshatva Sthitehe Vyahatatva. So what we say is, what you say, okay, Savishesham Brahma having nirvisheshatvam may be contradictory, but what if Brahman is really nirvishesha only? Nirvishesha Brahmani nirvisheshatva sthiti is proper. So for that first you have to prove that Brahman is Savishesha. Correct? So now he has shifted again. First you have to prove that Brahman is Savishesha, both using Shruti and Yukti. So only if you can prove that Savisheshatvam is the ultimate reality, we can even accept that Brahmana nirvisheshatvam is Bhranti. Otherwise, you cannot say that. Therefore, what? Tasmat Brahmana savisheshatvam Bhranti siddham. Therefore, what we say is that Brahman is really nirvishesha, and looking at it as savishesha is Bhranti, Dvaita drishti is Bhranti. Therefore, that alone can be negated, not the other way around. So, like this, first nirvishesha-nirupanam. For that, now we are going into Savisheshatva Nirakaranam. Savisheshatva is Bhranti Siddha, that we are going to establish, and in that manner we are going to negate all the Savishesha Vastus as only Adhyasika, Adhyaropita, all this like that. Okay, they are all only superimposed. Brahman is really only Nirvishesha. Nirvishesha Atma alone is really there. There is no Savishesha Atma, whether it is Paramatma or Jivatma. So that is the inquiry here. We will look at it further in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवाद.